Welcome to episode 14 of the Strategic Momentum Podcast. I'm your host, Connie Steele. In every episode, we share tips, stories, and advice from progressive leaders and how they've been able to break through their business inertia and propel their business forward. Our guest today is Lee Sommers, owner of Purpose Personal Fitness, a leading athletic and strength training company. His breadth and depth of experience spans almost 2 decades, and he's worked with a range of athletes, including Olympic gold medalist Katie Ledecky. He has seen the industry evolve, but not always for the better. And like many, he sees a growing focus on the numbers and the bottom line versus the customer.
And when you put so much focus on your bottom line and on the profit, a lot of times that culture and that feeling of really servicing either the client or the member or whoever it is kind of gets lost.
Lee stresses the importance of being customer-centric, and he shares his perspective on what it takes to deliver against it.
Thanks for joining us today, Lee.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Connie. I really appreciate it.
You've been involved in the fitness industry for almost about 20 years now and have been a personal trainer to some storied athletes such as, Katie Ledecky. So it'd be great for you to tell us about what triggered this longstanding interest in the field and how you have turned this interest into, your career.
Okay. So I've been involved with athletics in general for as long as I can remember, probably since I was 5 or 6 years old. That being said, I originally, when I decided to go to college to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I was a double major in finance and economics. After a couple of years heading down that path, just kind of decided that it wasn't for me. It didn't really allow me the platform to do what I wanted to do, which was help people and make an impact. So I decided to go and be a personal trainer while I was finishing up my degree. So I switched and decided I was going to go the route of exercise science. In that time, I wanted to make sure that I was getting some real world application experience. So I became a personal trainer for Valley Total Fitness. And I, learned a couple things and I was doing pretty well with it, graduated and became a director for them almost immediately out of college. It was a great job for me in that, first of all, it helped pay the bills. But second of all, it allowed me to kind of mesh my passion for fitness with some of my business background and my business experience. And that kind of served me well in that role. And my career kind of grew from there. It was a challenge with that particular company, with some of the things they did and the way they handled their business. But I'm sure we'll get into that as we go.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really a good segue into the next question I had, that given that you've been in this industry for so long, I'm sure you've seen it evolve quite a bit over the years. So it'd be interesting to understand how it's changed from where you started to where you are now. I always kind of take like an inventory of what I've seen in the industry and where I see it going. I alluded earlier to kind of some of the things that I didn't really appreciate about my first employer in college and as I started my career, some of the business practices, some of the accounting principles, some of the things that they really, kind of put their focus on, which was what made me, for lack of a better term, jump ship. I saw quite a focus on some of the stuff that I don't think really made for a really reputable business. So I did jump ship and I decided to go with another company, Sport and Health here in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. And they kind of seemed to be on the right track. Some of the stuff that I saw that I didn't appreciate about my previous employer, I saw them with a different focus. So it kind of felt like the right place for me. And I was with them for almost, I think, a little over 14 years. As far as kind of what I saw as my reflections of the industry, the Sport and Health model originally seemed to be more of family-friendly, customer service, customer or client-oriented, with a real focus on making sure that people were taken care of, the employees were driven to take care of the customer, and that for the most part, it would seem to be a comfortable atmosphere to work in and a comfortable atmosphere for the clients, customers to take part in and kind of almost, when they talk about, having that third place, your home is, that first place should be priority number one in most, for most people. Number two being your workplace. And then the third one, having that other place to feel comfortable, that other place to kind of feel at home. And for a lot of people, they kind of had that culture and that community at, kind of the onset. But I definitely have seen kind of a shift with
kind of the way that company and a lot of companies in the industry kind of treat their business, and it's become much more business driven, which again, I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more depth. But I think that there is some areas where I think it was really bottom line focused for the company rather than really focused on giving the member or client the experience that they want and desire and deserve.
Given that customer experience is such a critical focus for all businesses across every industry today, why do you feel yours in particular shifted to one that is bottom line driven and numbers driven?
Yeah, Connie, I think everyone needs to focus on the bottom line. Obviously, a profit is the lifeblood of a company in some regards. That you can't keep the doors open, you can't stay in business if you're not turning a profit. And I can completely understand that more than anyone. That being said, I think it's really important to understand the culture and that service mentality is what really feeds profit. And when you put so much focus on your bottom line and on the profit, a lot of times that culture and that feeling of really servicing either the client or the member or whoever it is kind of gets lost. A company's first focus should always be on their employees, on the people delivering the experience, treating them with respect, treating them with care, really making them feel valued, because those are the people that are going to give the experience. They're the front line of who's going to give the experience to your members. And the more the employees feel that they are valued and that they are appreciated, the more bought in and accountable they'll be to the company and the experience that's delivered. Versus if everything is so bottom line and numbers driven, they become removed from that process and they have a harder time embracing it. And then it becomes a culture of it's a job versus a career, something that they really feel a part of. And you want people that really are bought in and really are accountable and really do love that work experience. You really want those people on your team. And I think, in the industry, across the industry, it's become so focused on bottom line, EBITDA, net, that it gets lost. And that's that divide between, call it senior management, ownership, whoever it may be, and the people who are actually delivering the experience. And that's a dynamic you don't really want. But I can certainly see in the industry where most trainers or most people that work in a gym, they go to their job and they go in and they go through the motions and do their thing, versus really caring about where they work and what they're delivering on.
Is employee retention a big issue in your industry as a result of folks treating it as a job or not feeling that they are engaged in creating this compelling experience for their members?
Retention in any business is very important. You spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources on hiring and developing people. So another thing that really, if you're not keeping people who are invested and who are accountable, you wind up, kind of spinning your wheels trying to, always bring in new people and keep yourself well staffed. Retention in the fitness industry is a huge problem for a lot of reasons. But one thing that I had noticed, a trend that I've noticed in the industry over the years is obviously, like I said, we're always trying to hire. You're always trying to bring in people. I would call it quantity over quality type of recruiting efforts where, for me, I would find that I would have to interview 20 people to find one that I thought was a good candidate who made sense and who I really believed in. But because of the way the industry is set up, you can't really wait for those 20 interviews. You've got to get people in the door. You've got to get people working and up and running. So you wind up a lot of times going quantity over quality as far as the type of candidate, the type of person you're going to bring in. It's unfortunate, but it is the reality of the industry at this time. And that's something that I've seen for years. I've heard stories of companies who, in order to bring in people, they didn't know how to recruit to get the level of the staff they wanted. So they were going to start hitting places like bars, strip clubs.
Oh my God! Wow.
Parole offices. Yeah, this company will go unnamed. But they knew that they wanted people that were hungry, that looked the part, and that could present themselves well enough. It's certainly not, as someone who, I actually myself employ trainers to help me with what I do as far as my own workouts. I would never want to step foot in a place where those people weren't completely career-oriented, weren't completely bought in and passionate about what they do, and really cared about their education, cared about, what they provided to people. It's unfortunate in the industry, but the fact is, it's not always going to be, 4-year degree, 2 to 3 year masters, tons of education, tons of experience, lots of passion. That's not all the trainers that you're going to find. In fact, I would say it's probably 20% in a commercial health club chain are the ones that really, really live and breathe the career.
Well, that's interesting. I was going to ask you the question of, is there something consumers should know, but actually don't about the trainers that are in these gyms, the level of qualifications that they have to truly deliver the kinds of services that, these clients would want. And you just provided one that I was actually never aware of.
I think that, something that I would, want clients to know or be aware of is that you are the person who guides this. You're the one who gets to make the ultimate decision of whether or not you work with a trainer. And I think a lot of times a new member or a new client to a commercial health club chain knows they need help, but they really don't know the difference between a good trainer and a bad trainer and a dangerous trainer. A trainer who comes in, looks the part, speaks well, speaks very positively and very confidently about, whatever the topic is, whatever the client's issue is or goal is. If they're speaking confidently enough about it, more times than not, the client or the prospective client is going to believe in them because they work in a health club chain. They're the professional. So, I always urge people who are looking to ask lots of questions, try and understand what the process is going to look like, understand, how this person is going to help get them to the goal, understand what their qualifications are. You wouldn't want to go to, the cheapest doctor in town. You don't want to go to the cheapest trainer in town either. It's your body. Just as easily as a trainer could help you, they could hurt you if you truly give them, command over what's happening in that process.
Do you feel there's a lot of forward selling? So in light of how competitive the personal training and broadly the fitness industry is today, seeing all these new types of gyms with various experiences saying, we offer these type of classes or experiences that will really help you get in shape. Do you think there's just a lot of almost smoke and mirrors to some degree to help drive a lot of traffic in the door and without people really fully understanding what they're buying into?
Yeah, no, I would say that, most of the commercial health club chains are trying to kind of be the studio killers. Like you have your yoga studios and your spinning studios and your bar studios and everything else. They want to be one-stop shops for any of your fitness or wellness needs. They want to have everything. Unfortunately, sometimes that can water down the actual product because, you're stretching yourself kind of thin and not focusing on, what your A game stuff really is. A lot of times you'll see a trainer, who's trying to grow their business. Okay, what can I do to grow my business? There's 20 other trainers in here. I should go and I should start teaching classes. I should be a cycle instructor. I should be a yoga instructor and try and make themselves a bunch of different things so that they open themselves up to a huge market, which is a great business decision as an individual, but it doesn't always lend towards the best of products for the actual consumer.
So knowing there were, or I should say, there are still a lot of challenges in these larger clubs. Well, what did you personally do to help break through that inertia with not just, clients, but I'm sure your team?
Yeah, I wanted to really be as valuable as I could be to the company as a whole. And I wanted my reach to be fairly significant. So a few years back, when I, talking about that quality versus quantity, I really wanted to bring up the quality of what we provided to the consumer, both personally to the consumer, but also I wanted the trainers to grow and to get better. And so what I kind of worked out with the company at the time was I was going to help drive what they called their core competency courses, which was really education for the trainers, whether it was a new trainer or an existing trainer. Anyone who wanted to get or needed to get better would attend these courses. And I taught it with a team that I kind of helped create. And it was really kind of me taking ownership, not just of myself and my team and what was happening in my four walls, but was really trying to help the company. And I felt that was the best way I could do it. I wasn't going to really change policy in the company. I wasn't really going to be able to truly change direction because it wasn't my name. It wasn't my name on the door. But the way that I could help grow the brand and the way that I could help improve the quality of what we offered was to help educate trainers. And I did it with thousands over the years. And it was one of my favorite things that I continued to do for a good 3-4 years in the middle of my employment, actually probably closer to 5-6 years, which I really felt helped. And I always felt that, it would always make my day when a few years later, someone who either still with the company or had left the company would come back to me and say how much they learned or how much they appreciated it. Because I knew on a larger scale than just my four walls, I was helping make a difference either for that person, for the people that they were going to be coming in contact with, or for the company. Because like I said, I did and do care about the brand, and I wanted to see it do well.
Lee talked about the ways he could provide a better customer experience. That entailed developing his trainers through education and training, because he believed, and still does, quality is tied to the very people who service the customers at the end of the day. The better they are at their job, the better they will be at delivering an optimal experience. Next, Lee talks about what drove his desire to start his own business and how this customer-centric approach enables him to get the buy-in and trust that's pivotal to their success.
I really wanted to kind of take command over my own career, my own life, really. I got a little frustrated in the commercial health club setting of getting caught up in all the minutia of the job. There's a lot of logistics and a lot of things that, I've been doing for years that didn't really lend towards making me happy or providing what I wanted to the consumer. And so now the consumer is, one-on-one training, semi-private training, and team training. Obviously, a lot of swim clubs have come to me off of, Katie Ledecky's success, which is fantastic. I worked very closely with Katie for years and still work with her previous coaches in swim clubs. They're all very much bought into the way that I do things. It's been very refreshing, to kind of just not really have to report to anyone about anything and just run my business the way I want, good, bad, or indifferent. The reception of it has been fantastic. I've seen it grow very quickly, and I'm really, really loving what I'm doing. You shouldn't choose to do something if you're not passionate about it and you don't love it. And that's kind of where I am right now, is loving what I'm doing, loving who I'm doing it with, and really, waking up every day feeling like I can help make a difference. I can help people grow. I can help people get better. That's kind of that was the original reason I got into this.
Clearly, you're very passionate about educating and growing, not just your employees, but I'm assuming you probably take that learning and that passion that you have and apply it to, your clients. Now that you've started your own business, what are ways that you employ this learning that you have to ensure that the clients you have, grow in the way that you want them to grow, or evolve in the way that they want to evolve themselves?
Yeah, I mentioned before about the consumer, the prospective client asking lots of questions. While that's great, I don't want the people that I meet with to have to ask a lot of questions. I really want to be very transparent about what's happening and why it's happening. I want them to understand both from a micro and macro perspective why the program is what it is, what we're focusing on at this time, and how it plays a small part in the larger picture. I want them to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. I think that builds a lot of value in what I offer. And I want them to always feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel like, and no client in our industry should feel like a trainer is doing program design by, blindfolding himself and throwing darts. I want them to understand that it's a systematic approach to achieving what they want to achieve in a safe and progressive manner. And I think a lot of times in the commercial health club setting, it's just a kind of a free-for-all.
I was going to ask, is it uncommon to feel that you're starting off with a big picture plan? That you're just going in, you have your session. The promise is that after however many weeks you have this personal training package that you're going to drop however many pounds and look amazing. But yet that individual really doesn't have a sense of where you're starting from and the specific strategies to help get you there.
Anyone, I'm sure me having insight into the industry, I would want to understand what the trainer is seeing and why they're choosing the exercises that they're choosing, why they're understanding or why they're choosing the progressions, why they're choosing the program that they're divvying out. And please don't get me wrong, Connie, there are some amazing trainers in commercial health club chains, some that I think are far better than myself. When we speak about this, it's more in general terms that I do believe they are slightly the minority if you go across the board and across the industry and across companies. But getting back to your question, I do believe that the more the client understands what's happening, the more bought in they'll be. And then you've got a client for life who just always feels like you have their best interest at heart. You're very sincere, you're very genuine, and that you are choosing things based off of them. It's a very focused, individualized program that's based off of them, not off of some cookie cutter thing that you just kind of always go to.
So it sounds like the key thing here is really about creating that tight relationship ultimately and the connection with your client. Tell me a little bit more about ways that you go about doing that, or it'd be great to give some examples of how did you create that tight relationship with Katie? Because I'm sure she had the opportunity to work with a lot of different trainers at the time that you met her, but what was it about the way that you engaged with her that you felt was able to take her to, so the depths of success, or I should say the pinnacles of success that she achieved?
Unfortunately is for me, I can kind of take minimal to no credit for Katie's success. Katie was going to be Katie no matter what. But in, attempting to own my own space and my own place in that success, I'll say that there was a very high level of trust between Katie and myself, and it came over time. It came with, obstacles just like anything else. Katie wasn't a very communicative client. She was a 15-year-old girl when we started, just about to turn 16. And it was, something where she had to open up and I had to find ways to help her accomplish that, because it's very hard to progress a client when you're not understanding what they're feeling or how things are going. And over the years, that trust level, that ability to kind of let down walls and I don't want to call it be vulnerable, but to say when something feels great, when something feels horrible, how you're feeling today versus, your one-word answers was huge. There was a very high level of trust between myself and Katie, and myself and Katie's coach, me and Katie's parents. And that's been, it made for an amazing experience over the 4 or 5 years that we got to work together.
What's interesting is hearing how you think about really the holistic approach to building trust and relationships with everyone who's involved with an athlete or everyone who's involved with a particular client. Is it's clear you understand that each of these individuals impact the end person's success. So by understanding that and then tying it to what's the right program plan, it becomes clear as to why you're able to develop a personalized program that ultimately is tailored to that individual.
Yeah, I would say, with the swim clubs that I currently work with, because those are the large teams that I work with, I speak with the coaches multiple times a week. I speak with the athletes. They have complete, we'll call it an open door policy with me, where they can call me, they can text me, they can, walk in and talk to me before, after practice. And I really, in my mind, kind of, while I'm out on my own, with my own company and also working here at Healthy Baller, which is kind of where I'm stationed out of, and work very closely with these guys, I consider myself one of the coaches with Nation's Capital Swim Club, where Katie swam and where I work with their athletes. And I consider myself a coach with RMSC, which is Rockville Municipal Swim, which is another club that I work with. I just consider myself another one of the coaches. And I think looking at it from a holistic, approach, you should always be communicating with the other coaches. You should always be communicating with the athletes. Number one is how you show that you care and that you're genuine. But number two, the more you're communicating with them, the more open relationship you have with them, the easier it is to get more out of them as far as, whether it's progress, whether it's their effort. Again, the more they trust in you, the more willingness they will have to give, which is how you get the most out of people.
So I take away openness, transparency, really ultimately caring about, your client. Any other last words of wisdom?
it would always depend on who we're saying it for. But for me, I always kind of think even when I'm talking to my children, when I'm talking to other trainers, giving out advice to high school or college kids, and, if I'm speaking in front of them, is find what you love and do that. I was never someone who woke up in the morning and said, crap, I got to go to work today. I wake up at 4:30 a lot of days just to go work with kids who want to be in working with me at 5 a.m. And I'm working till 6, 7, 8 p.m. on other nights. But I love what I do. I never wake up, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, saying, crap, I got to go to work today. So, that's how success is made, but that's how happiness is made, is you have to just believe in what you do, love what you do. And, there'll be challenges, there'll be obstacles. It's not unlike, relationships. There's always going to be stuff that, kind of gets in the way. But if your focus is loving what you do and being really good at that and helping others, I feel like that's how I get fulfillment. And I believe a lot of other people, if they would just put the focus on that, would kind of feel the same way.
And finally, what's the best way listeners can connect with you?
I can be, I guess Instagram is kind of new to me, but it's Lee Sommers PT for Instagram. You can always find me on Facebook just under my name. And then if you need me by email, it is leesummerspt@gmail.com. Kind of all over the place right now. I'm across the country, whether it's, doing clinics or consulting with teams or colleges or USA Swimming even. But I am here in the Rockville, Bethesda area, which is where I spend the majority of my time.
Thanks so much for your time, Lee. Wonderful insight and perspective into not just dynamics of the fitness and personal training industry, but really some critical and foundational business practices that every organization really needs to think about employing.
No, it's my pleasure, Connie. Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to thank Lee again for joining the show and sharing his strategies for delivering the best experience to your customers. And in a service-oriented industry like fitness, it starts with your employees. Find the right talent, train and educate them, show them you care. Then they'll do the same with your customers. But you can't stop there. When you're working with your customers or clients, you need to build a trusted relationship, not only with them, but those that support them and are critical to your client's success. Thanks for listening to the Strategic Momentum Podcast. Just a reminder that you can connect with Lee by email at leesummerspt@gmail.com. If you want to hear previous episodes or even get show notes from this episode, visit us on our podcast page at flywheelassociates.com/podcast. I'm Connie Steele, and you've been listening to the Strategic Momentum Podcast.